WCOM FMLP, Carborough Chapel Hill. We are not in the studio because we are moving. So we're going to load up interviews for the next month. So we're actually live on this recording, kind of like we are on air. You have to imagine, right? I'll be sitting in the chair trying to figure out how to push all the buttons. Hopefully we'll get on air. And Ian, ever faithful and ever present, is here. We have Gabby Daddy, as her new nickname for our rare tribal mob, Medicine Drum Sound Bath drum crew. And Louie's here as well. We're at Jason's. Say hi, Louie.
Hi, recording.
Hi, recording. We'll have to speak up a little bit, even though it's a really good microphone on this particular app. We're at Jason's. Gabby said we had to spend the night out here in wild nature.
I forced you.
Yeah, when Gabby makes a suggestion, it goes like right past any sort of protection barriers a person might have up. It's part of her mystic skills in real estate, especially.
Yes.
Because it's a good way to serve the people when you can get past their guards and say you really want this house, even though you might not be able to afford it. I'm just trying to help you get what you want. And they melt.
They do.
They do. Oh. Yeah, we're in front of a fire circle at Jason's, a ring of rocks, and I got a fire going from the many coals that were in there this morning. And we got our coffee. Jason was up, and he's making us some breakfast. That's why we got to stay. Right, Gabby?
Yes.
What did you tell us about?
That nobody has made me breakfast. No, that makes me sound like nobody loves me. It's just like
You're the mom.
I'm not in situations where someone serves me breakfast.
No.
I'm always serving the breakfast.
Right. You got the kids and
I mean,
the house
technically,
and
my
the babies.
chickens do lay me eggs, so
Right.
they're trying,
Right. Now do with these what you will.
Yes.
Yeah, so Jason's going to make us some breakfast, and the fire started, and we're out here on Jason and Tracy's 15 acres. We had a little sound bath party last night. It's very lovely. Gabby Daddy, she gave us some Reiki during the drum and says, I can never go back.
Never. Life is altered.
So tell us about that sort of revelation thing that happened.
So, I guess the first time we did it was at Siva.
The sound bath with the medicine drum?
Yes, and the Reiki. And it just felt, I don't know, so aligned, and I felt like the energy was stronger and like it flowed. So I was able to work with the energy of the room that you guys were creating. And then I was hooked. And then I started dreaming about the drum.
Right away.
Yeah.
What kind of dream? What was the setting, the environment? Your dream?
It was just like a calling. Like, it wasn't like physically I was seeing it. It was like I could hear its spirit calling. Like,
When
like,
you're sleeping in your
yes.
dream? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 Gabby, Gabby, boom, boom,
They
boom,
called me
boom.
Gabby Daddy too.
Yeah, how did that transpire? We were at your place a couple Sundays ago, right? And I stumbled over my words or something. How did that?
I think so. And then
Ian
I
said
said
something
no,
about
I
that.
actually like being called Daddy.
Yeah.
My masculine ego
Right.
tries to take over.
Didn't you mention something about that, Ian? You picked up on something about, I meant to say Gabby, but I said Daddy, sort of.
Yeah, I think Daddy came out and said a Gabby, and then Gabby Daddy just became a thing.
But for those that don't want to call me Gabby Daddy, you can call me Gabby the Great. That's my Instagram name.
Or
Gabby the Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone thinks like I just think that I'm great, but it's actually because Alexander the Great was Alexander the Terrible, so it was supposed to be a joke, but nobody really knows that.
The terrible as far as like a conqueror of
Just like
many nations, and that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, I think it was pretty like headstrong.
He was the son of a great military leader, right? And he was young, like was he in his
Yeah,
20s
I
or
think
something?
so.
Gabby, so you also practice Reiki
Yes.
as well? What called you to Reiki?
Again, it called to me. Everything called to me that I did, like real estate.
Gabby!
I know, like
Did
real
they have
estate.
to like pound you, or was it like
Sometimes,
gentle?
yeah.
Do you just have
no.
really good ears?
Yeah.
I don't
Are your
think
ears better
so.
than ours?
I don't think
What's
so.
happening?
So like real estate, I never wanted to do real estate, and then I just felt like I never even considered it. And then I got recruited to do it, and then I was a top producer within like the first few months. And then with Reiki, I was receiving it, and after about a year of receiving, like I kept feeling like I wanted to put my hands on their hands, and then I started doing it.
When they had
Yeah.
their hands on you for Reiki, you wanted to.
Yeah, and then I was like, it was just like I knew I needed to get attuned. And then after my kid's father passed away, I definitely made the decision to do it because I wanted to be able to help them in that way.
Your children
Yeah.
and your husband that passed?
He wasn't my
your- I
husband,
mean,
but
your-
he was their dad.
Yeah.
It was last January.
So a year and a half ago, basically.
Yeah.
So have you talked to your kid's dad at all yet?
Yes. And my kids have too. We use the
Oh, yeah?
pendulum a lot.
Mm.
But when you're working with a pendulum, you have to ask like a bunch of tester questions, you know. Especially like is my name whatever? Is
Oh, to attune the pendulum and it spin and see what direction?
yeah. You tell it what is yes and what is no.
Oh.
But especially if you're with like more non-believer people, you have to ask the tester questions first and let them hold it. Otherwise, they think you're manipulating it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that part.
Mhm.
You let the people that are there, the non-believers, so to
Yeah.
speak, hold the pendulum and see for themselves that they're not moving their hand, that the pendulum is moving by
Right.
itself.
Yeah.
Oh. Because when I first started watching people do that, I was totally skeptical. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, I mean,
You can feel the energy,
Yeah.
like if you hold it over your palm. There's something about.
it's an ancient divining practice,
And
right?
there's something about like the magnets in the earth that it like pulls towards. Do y'all know about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Magnetism of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you hold it, it feels like it's like drawing down towards the ground.
Gravity?
Magnetism. We call magnetism gravity because that's a scientific term. We just can't say magnetism. That's just too
No, I'm
realistic.
I'm checking if there's some differentiation there. Yeah. Cool.
But I feel like if you hold anything heavy up, if it goes towards the ground, that's gravity just because it's heavy. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna go like anything with weight is gonna go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there's like an actual pull you can feel.
So a heavier gravitational pull on those objects, which is signifying the magnetism.
That sound is. Did you notice that pretty quickly? That subtlety of pulling more than the weight of the stone or whatever the pendulum was.
Yeah, I noticed it immediately.
Okay, so you
'Cause
have a
I'm-
sensitivity
Well, I'm
towards-
naturally a skeptic. I just want to know the science behind how everything works, like the mechanics of things.
Yeah.
So that was probably, I noticed it and then like I researched it.
Did you doubt that for a moment? It's like, wait a minute, something's going on here.
Yeah, I also like, I need to like touch it to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that I would understand Reiki unless I had felt it. It's kind of hard to explain.
Did have in your early life, those were the dogs, Jason Tracy's dogs that just ran by, barking. That wasn't us. Well, sometimes. Depends on the evening. Did you have spiritual experiences when you were young?
I did, but I didn't know that's what they were.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been one to just like walk in the woods, and I always wanted to like discover something, and I always thought aliens were like communicating with me.
How old were you when you had a sense of that there was?
I mean, ever since I can
other
remember.
beings.
Yeah, I've always believed. I think it's a little bit weird that humans would think we're the only breathing, living thing.
It's very
Intelligent
egotistical.
thing. Yeah, it is. And I used to lucid dream and have like sleep paralysis a lot. And
How old were you?
like since I can remember,
Oh,
I've been
wow.
able to like fly in my dreams, and I could like go back and dream the same dream if I wanted to, but it was
Wow.
like the picture of it would be like a little further away.
The second and third
Yeah.
time if you wanted to.
Yeah. And then I know there's like some theories on like jumping timelines and how your soul can be living like multiple lives at once, or you can kind of like, this consciousness can kind of switch. And there was one time I was probably about 10 and I woke up from a dream, but it felt like I woke up from my life, and like I missed my family. Like I missed the people in that dream for like a long time.
Was your family, but your dream family or
Yeah.
your trance family?
It was a completely different life.
same,
like I was-
same people and everything, yeah.
No, like I was an adult with kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. A whole, and you really missed him. Like
Yeah.
there was a body
Like I felt
sensation
I
of,
felt heartbroken when I woke up. I felt like I didn't know where I was, or
huh.
yeah.
So you had those, did you have more similar ones with that family? Could you revisit?
I don't know. I just remember that experience specifically. Like it stands out.
Was that pretty consistent throughout your whole young life, or were there intervals where you wouldn't have maybe the sense of spirit in your life?
Well, I grew up in a traditional Christian family, actually Pentecostal Free Will Baptist, so I was basically always at church. And I feel like I didn't know the difference between religion and spirituality yet at that point. And then when I was like 19, I started the journey of becoming agnostic. So I was agnostic for like 7 or 8 years.
You just gave up on the whole, there's
yeah,
a God
I mean-
in the sky.
Well, I was like, okay, if this God that I grew up believing in is real, I think he's a narcissist, and I'm not trying to go to heaven and play a harp for him. Like, that doesn't sound like me, right? And I was like, I love science, I love people, like I love helping, so I'm just gonna chill and like still try to discover the truth, because I wasn't ready to like commit to atheism. So I was like, atheists make fun of agnostics because they're like, you can't really, you're on the fence.
Yeah, you can't half believe and half not.
But you really are, like, if you're agnostic, you're just kind of like, I don't want to say there's nothing, but I need to like feel it and see it. And then when I had my awakening, like my whole entire life changed. Like that's why I'm sitting on this ground right now.
The awakening, was that a moment of like tremendous revelation and lights and sirens and
Yeah,
beings
so
and deities all flooding
yeah.
around you?
Very slowly.
It definitely wasn't slow. I guess for about 6 months, I had been in like the discovery phase. I was like, whoa, there's something to these tarot readings and like this energy stuff. And then I started listening to the Gateway tapes that the CIA released.
About aliens?
Well, it's about astral traveling
Ah.
because they were trying to like train government to go be spies. But
Remote
they,
viewing sort of thing?
yeah, they ended up like canceling the project because it was too unreliable. Like someone could just lie about what they saw or where they went. So I astral traveled for the first time, and it was like one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced. Might be the most incredible. So I felt it was happening. You have to keep your mind awake, but your body like very still. And when you're trying to keep your body still to go into rest, you'll start itching somewhere, or you know what I mean? You're like, I need to move, just don't move. And then you'll feel like a rising, and it starts kind of like at the bottom of your back and rises up through your chest. So when you feel it get to your chest, if you kind of breathe through it and just say, okay, this is happening, you can come out, and then you can see yourself. And you might hear, I heard like, some people say it sounds like a train, but I heard actual vibrations, and I started shaking, which was like the separation of my light body from my physical body. And so I rose up, I saw myself laying there, and then I kept rising up through the ceiling and through the sky and like through the ether. And I went through a blue like nebula, and then I was on top of the entire universe. And when I came back, I was like, divine love is real. And I had like chills on my spine for 3 days, and like I wanted to just tell everybody, even though I couldn't tell everyone that story because they would get scared. But for me, it was like the confirmation that I needed, like, this is real.
So your light body, was your light body kind of translucent or
So
solid?
I couldn't see my light body, I could just see my physical body.
Rising?
Well, it's like
Or that was a feeling?
yeah, it's a feeling. So when you rise out, you can see your physical body.
Oh, you're looking down.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
And you have the sense that you're moving up.
Yeah.
Did that take some concentration and focus, or that was easily, naturally just projecting?
Well, it
and
took
moving?
concentration and focus, but I think because I was a lucid dreamer for like my childhood and like sleep paralysis, it was probably easier for me to do that.
The paralysis is your body's like perfectly rigid and still.
Yeah, sleep paralysis is like more scary usually because you want to wake up, but your body's not moving, and you'll
Very
be screaming.
frightening.
Yeah. I've had a couple times when I was astral projecting because I got a little bit obsessed. I was doing it like 3 times a day.
Oh,
I was not grounded at all. I didn't even know about grounding, but I couldn't get back in my body a couple of times. And one time my dog was dragging my light body, and I know that he was dragging me because he was barking, and I saw him like dragging me across the floor, and I was just like sliding like sideways. He was like dragging me like towards my body.
and you're okay with that? Your light body was like, okay, well, this is what's going on.
Well,
or we have
yeah,
some
I
resistance.
needed to get back in. So
You realize that?
yeah. And this, I just want to say, this is not on any type of plant medicine when I'm having these experiences.
You're naturally tuned into spirit world, sounds like.
Yeah.
Is anyone in your family, your mother or grandparents, or have told you about their, well, Pentecostal, they're a pretty lively bunch, is that right?
Yeah, Pentecostal
people
Free Will
falling
Baptist.
out
Yeah,
and-
altar, speaking in tongues. So I was adopted like around 4,
Uh-huh.
and I always say like I was raised by white people because I didn't even like eat an actual like taco with a corn tortilla until I was already like a grown up. So that like being raised white like that is really helps people understand, you know, a lot of things about me.
So what's your native heritage?
Apache, Native American, and Spanish and Mexican. Um,
So were you stolen from your parents and
well,
adopted out?
it's actually funny you say that because my birth mom swears that I was.
Really?
Yeah. She was 17 when she had me, and she did sign me over to this family, who, by the way, I love very much. But I think in her
You've
head,
met them and your birth family?
I've met some of them. My adoptive family, I mean, they raised me, but I think in my birth mom's head, she thought that she was going to get me back at some point.
Mm.
But I think it's like totally for the best that, you know, I didn't go back. So I haven't talked to her since I was probably like 21.
What region of the States was your mom from?
I don't know. I think she lives in Michigan right now.
Mm.
And then my birth dad, he lived in Texas. He passed away when I was like 25, I think. I hadn't seen him since I was 8 months old, but one of my birth aunts contacted me. And actually, him and I had been texting a little bit for the first time, like ever. And I was very unregulated back then. You know, when you go on like a personal awareness journey, like you think back to all the times you didn't have awareness and you're like, whoa. I was kind of feeling some type of way that he just reached out to me casually.
Mm.
Well, I heard he was trying to get up with me, so I texted him and I was like, hey, apparently I'm a product of your sperm. I heard you wanted to talk to me. And he was like, what's up? I was like, what's up?
What's up?
Where have you been for 20 something years? And he's like, whoa, calm down. And I'm like, calm down?
Calm down.
What? So I was just in that state, you know
gosh.
what I mean? Because in my head, I was like, he doesn't even know I existed.
No.
And then I found out he knew I existed and he saw me when I was a baby. And anyway, he passed away. I was his only child and he wasn't married. So he had a 21 gun salute and I flew to Texas and I got to meet my native family. And now I'm really close with his sister.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what's her religious or spiritual?
I would say, I want to say she grew up Catholic, but now she is just more spiritual, not really putting herself in a religious box.
Mm-hmm. So how old were you when your biological father passed?
I think I was 24 or 25 because I remember I was working at the airport at that time.
Parking planes and grease monking the motors.
Yeah, getting run over by tugs, hitting my heads on props and falling over in front of the whole forestry service.
So you were literally the life of the party.
I was a line daddy.
A line daddy?
Yeah.
What's a line daddy?
I don't know, I just made it up. But I was the only girl working the line. So that's probably where like a lot of my masculine energy comes from.
Moving planes in and out of the hangar?
Yeah, and I cannot believe like I never wrecked a plane. I mean, why would they No, honestly, this was back like when I did consume alcohol and I would be so hungover, like falling asleep, and I'm like, y'all are letting me. I drove a minivan at the time. I can barely parallel park this minivan. Not only are you letting me drive 3,000-gallon jet fuel trucks, you're letting me back $1 million jets into hangars. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Who agreed to that?
So you're really good, your body's really good at manipulating the material world while you're in trance.
I guess so.
It's kind of what that sounds like to me. Whether
Yeah.
that's through alcohol hangover or you're just out of your mind and your body says, oh, I can do this.
I think I have had a lot of, whether it's ancestors, guardian angels, but just I didn't even know how much I was being looked out for, you know?
Right.
Because like the job at the airport, I should have never gotten that job. I didn't know anything about aviation. No females had worked there. No Hispanic people had worked there. And I was running an illegal in-home childcare center, like no education, and the manager hired me on the spot. You know, it doesn't make sense.
Gabby Daddy, the boundary dissolving spirit woman. Yeah, if you need some boundaries crossed or something pressing, some worldly issue that you're having, for $900 an hour, we have a resolver for you here.
And the
there's
900 is a discount.
900. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I had a question there, but it flew off.
And back at the airport, I was still just like I am today. I'd rescue turtles. I'd put them on my tug. I'd drive them down to the pond, like get snakes out of hangers. So it's like interesting because even before you say you're spiritual, you're still you. Like that seed of you still kind of moves the same way, even though everything feels different.
Hence your ability to move houses quickly and make a bunch of money.
Yes.
Because you have this natural, seems like, ability to navigate this 3D world easily, but still being really connected to spirit and animals
Yeah.
and just this whole other mystic side that we have as humans.
We do. And now my real estate business is in an integration phase. So I feel like I came out of the closet the end of last year with like the spiritual. But it's funny because I was like, oh my gosh, these people are going to freak out. But they were like, you know that we already knew you were weird.
Right.
Like,
Right.
You weren't really hiding it that well.
Yeah.
So this next level like makes sense. But I am glad I did it. I mean, my only hesitation was just being in a smaller town, Bible Belt. Even though there's tons of mysticism in the Bible, it's like if
Right.
mysticism today is not looked at the same. It's people are more scared of it. But when I came out, it was received well. I only had a couple people tell me that I was possessed.
Only
so,
a couple.
Yeah, only a couple. So it wasn't,
Right.
But then all of the clients I started attracting were people who were like on their sober journeys, or they just want to know more about Reiki. Like a lot of my clients, I've given them their first Reiki session. I had a listing appointment where I also cleansed his house, gave him Reiki, and did the listing appointment.
Nice.
So I love that integration aspect because at the end of the day, like we still live in a capitalist society, and even if we love being in nature, there's no reason for us to go without what we need to thrive. Because if we thrive as spiritual beings, we're going to do good and with the abundance, and we're going to help others. So if I wasn't able to have a successful real estate business, I wouldn't be able to give so much Reiki healing for free,
Right. So how are you? Is that difficult walking in two worlds?
Yes, it was, but I feel now that I'm integrating, and that I'm like fully out of the closet, and I like people seem to be so intrigued by
Receptive.
like on my social media. I do feel like I'm walking one path now.
Do you wake up sometimes or have times in the day where you're like this heavy world of responsibility and money getting is just a bit too much? You'd rather be.
Yes, I definitely have felt like that, but it's kind of like
I was given the responsibility and this big plate for a reason, right? Um, and I think a lot of it is access to a certain group of people. Like, think about it. If I had just gone straight into the woo and not had my journey, a lot of people would just write me off as like, oh, you're just a crazy swamp witch. But I created a business first and I did all these leadership things. And so now when they see it, they're like, well, we know she's sane. Yeah, she's credible because of this, but we're confused at like this, because everywhere I go, people are asking me like, what were y'all doing on Sunday? What's that thing? What's Reiki? And it's like at business events, you know? So I do know it's making an impact.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I was just at one Friday and several people asked me about it. And I mean, of course, I invited them to the next one, but
Because you posted pictures of gathering at your
Yeah.
place, a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
that we were at with the medicine drum and doing
and the
Reiki
snakes
and all that.
and the
snake.
goats. And I think that I feel more aligned with my life purpose now. The burden is easier because I know that the purpose is connecting. So I have a lot of business
Right.
travel coming up, and in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be away from home. I don't want to be in these big cities, but I know that I'm so well positioned to make an impact because I already am.
Right.
You know?
You're out of the closet, spiritual
Yeah.
closet,
Yeah, feels good.
or you're out of the ordinary reality closet
Yeah.
into the unordinary and integrating, well, spirit, bringing. Right, so we bring ourselves, our authentic self, that's the seeker and the one that's sensitive to the callings and the intuitions that we have. And for whatever reason, we get to do that. We're like that guy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when we get to be able to see, oh, I'm that person that I've read about and seen on movies, and I'm that person now. And we gain confidence and humility, because that's really important, to not get all heady and I'm the best and
Right.
go that direction. And so the feeling of being of service and that we can be a light in the darkness, kind of, and that's very motivating and helps us to stay in our truth, stay in our peace, stay in connected to spirit and communicating.
Yeah.
And so the medicine drum has found you recently, and that has been a bit of a shift for you as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was another thing I didn't expect. But kind of just like the connection, like feeling, I would like to do some research on the spirit of medicine drum and, its roots and where that comes from, because I definitely feel a deep connection to it. And I get sad when I have to do Reiki without it.
So this is a very new
Yes.
event that's been happening with you the last couple months. Well, you've been with us like every time at Alchemy Wellness Center for the sound bath.
Yeah. So I think we have a drumming next week, right, at Alchemy. I
6th,
think
I
I'll do
believe.
Reiki there too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You did last couple times, right?
No.
At Alchemy.
The first time was at Reiki Share. I think you played the drum a little, but
Yeah.
the first time was at Sheena's, so just like what was that, a week ago?
Yeah.
And then so after last weekend, after the yoga studio and then my house, and then something else happened. I actually started a new life cycle. You can look at your life cycles on the pattern. It's an 8-month cycle, but
The
I was
pattern
telling,
is an app
it's an
for,
app. You put your birth information in, and it gives you your natural personality traits, but then what life cycle you're in. So one that I'm in right now is career expansion, and I've gotten so many opportunities during this time. But I kept telling everyone that I was not the same person. Like, I was truly transformed after last weekend. And I text you because I was struggling Monday morning with
Yeah.
just coming back into the world. So I spent 2 days working from home and kind of like in my head, like, this, I don't want to do this. I want to live free. I want to live outside. Like, why do I have to go to these meetings? But then Wednesday, I had a big event that I had to be at all day. And in my head, I was dreading going.
A work event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once I went, I had all the right conversations. One of my Reiki clients was there. And I was like, hey, I need to touch your crown. Like, your ancestors are coming through right now.
Yeah. You're not the ordinary strain of bacteria
And I'm
floating
like,
around.
I'm in like full business attire,
Right.
And but I had all the right conversations, and it reminded me. It was a good lesson for me that, first of all, don't regret anything or don't not want to be somewhere, because if you're there, then obviously you were aligned to be there for a reason. So
Right.
why have a bad mindset about it? So that lesson helped me a lot, because now I feel like at all my business functions, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. Who am I going to connect with?
Right. It's thrilling.
Yeah. Because the goal is for all of us to get back to oneness, in my opinion. There's a really good book called The One Mind that explains like the one consciousness and how we all have abilities, we're all telepathic, but these things and like the separation,
Right.
have gotten in the way. But the closer you can get back to the oneness, people won't need to go and try to find all this fulfillment in 3D things like, alcohol
Consumerism.
or back-to-back relationships in there, because they're not really happy. They're just avoiding.
Yeah. So how do you view this, what we call the oneness? How do you explain that? What's your view on that?
So I call the oneness source, and I think that all energy comes from source. I think it is divine love. It's the highest frequency. It's a feeling. I mean, everyone says divine love, God's love, but I feel like until you feel it, you can't comprehend it.
Right. No. Absolutely.
Because everything is perfect.
It's a thought and an idea
Yeah.
and a belief until we actually have an experience.
Yeah. And the other thing too, that I wish people kind of understood more is you can align with that frequency of divine love. Like, maybe you can't, it's probably hard to stay in it 24/7, like,
Right.
unless you're a monk. But if you pick up a meditative practice or any type of practice in nature, you can experience that on a regular basis.
People may have moments of like open-heartedness,
Right.
but like you said, they're fleeting. So oneness is source energy, or that feeling of God. It reminds me of the New Testament story of Saul, when he was going up to Syria from Jerusalem to wipe out the Christians, the group that was starting in the northern areas over there. And he got struck by a great light, knocked him off his horse. He was blind for 3 days, and he was the leader of this group, this military attachment. And he got struck, and his eyes cleared, and he became Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament. And he had that divine change moment of super clarity. And it sounds like you kind of had something similar, not quite that dramatic, but like a sudden shift, like a lightning bolt from God, so to speak, just hit.
Yeah, I think my ex-husband would say it was that dramatic.
Well, he stayed the same and you didn't.
Yep, and that's okay, that's okay. But there's no way I could go back after that. And that's how I feel about like the drum. It's like I can't, there's like this new layer and I can't go back to just doing regular Reiki. So we're going to have to figure
There-
that out.
Huh?
We're going to have to figure that out.
Oh, you need an extra hand to drum
I do.
and Reiki with.
Let me just call my alien friends in to hold the Reiki while I do the drum.
Ah. So the extraterrestrials,
Mhm.
these spirits or beings, do they have a physical form for you? Oh, there's quite a few actually that you talk with.
Yes, they do have a physical form. And I'm not an ET expert. I just come with my own experiences, right? So I astral projected into the ship of what I'm guessing are the Greys.
Mm.
I went through, well, first of all, I had been trying to meet up with them because they were manipulating my dreams and I wanted to ask them why. But you know, sometimes I have ego issues too, and I'm like, why can't y'all just talk? Like, it's not hard. And then I'm like, oh, they're telepathic. Like, they're
You just had to say it.
yeah. But they were setting my dreams up to be very ordinary circumstances, and then they would pretend to be a person in my family.
Mm.
And then mentally, I would be like, I know that's not them. I know that's an alien. And then their true form would show because they, in my head, I was like, I don't want them to know that I know. So I'm just going to play along. But because I thought it, they knew.
Yeah.
So I was basically just wanting to chat with them about why they were manipulating my dreams. Not that I cared, but it's like, can you give me a heads up or can you do it in not such an eerie way? Like, I don't want your alien arm around my body without consent, you know? But then I remembered all the times that I said, hey, ETs, if you guys want to experiment on me, I'm down.
Well, you already gave us permission,
I
remember?
did. Yeah, I did. So I had been trying after they were doing this to my dreams, and I was like a little fed up. I was like, okay, I'm coming to where y'all are. Like, we're going to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I astral projected. I went through a pink nebula this time. It was beautiful. And I was standing right behind one. Like, I could draw him for you right now. I like the texture of his skin. It was like slick, his feet, his like everything. But the thing is, when I got there, I got so scared because like I did it.
You're right.
I came straight back to my body and I was like, I wasn't done. Yeah, I was like, I wasn't done.
Is this your imagination or is this
No.
a real experience?
I'm glad you asked that because I had this conversation with Ian last night about Reiki. There's a few different things that are happening in these experiences. One is you're reading the energy as a visual, and so I'm describing to you basically a metaphor, right? Because this is how I'm reading your energy. But then I might see a past life, and I know that it's a past life, and I don't know how I know it, the difference between like a past life and a metaphor, but I just do. And then there's ET experiences and actually traveling to different dimensions.
We call that intuition, right? I don't know how that I know, I just do.
Yeah. And I hate, like, I have to find a better way to say that because I feel like that's why a lot of people are turned off from maybe having a spiritual journey because in religion, a lot of times it's like, no, it's this way.
Mm-hmm.
But there are differences. So for that specific scenario, I was really there. I had really traveled through a portal to view them. And I use sound a lot as the frequency of sound can help you travel because sound is a portal.
So you play something on some music or some frequency
Yeah, I'll play
music?
certain frequencies. And I think it can't be the type that like you hear in an elevator or the nail salon music. It has to be frequencies that a lot of people say they sound scary, but
No
they're
talking.
just they're just very like deep frequencies.
Mhm.
And then I work with the mantis beings during Reiki. So
Mantis beings.
mantis are ETs that are like very technologically advanced, like math, sacred geometry. And the first time they showed up for me, it was when I was with plant medicine, but now they come in regularly. I think that was just like maybe the initiation.
Right.
But they had me, I was giving Reiki, and they had me lift the chakra up to them, and they did some sort of like recoding. So when I lifted it, it was like a hologram.
Yours or?
The person I was working on.
Ah.
Like I lifted it up like a hologram, and they like recoded it, and then I placed it back. So since then, that was like about a year ago. They come through maybe like every 3 or 4 sessions to do some sort of like recoding. So
This is all very science fiction
yeah, I guess it does seem like that.
sounding, very futuristic.
Mhm.
Although, if we go back in the ancient manuscripts, this is nothing new that you're describing.
Yeah.
I mean, back to Egypt, back to Sumer, I mean, all the way back, there is text and literature to, corroborate, to say, yeah, this is what's been going on the whole time.
Yeah. I think that as the physical world progressed, the channels to spirituality just got smaller and smaller because of electronics, pollution, like all the things that take away from the natural world.
In our current era.
Yes.
Mhm. We can't speak for, of course, the civilizations of the past, because there's really hardly anything to go on there. All their technologies are gone to us.
Yeah.
Archaeologists will dig them up occasionally,
Mhm.
some artifact or something, and
Right.
try to decode it. And that's our neighbor donkey in the distance. So, Ian, any comments,
Yeah,
questions,
you've been so quiet.
answers?
Y'all have just been flowing, and truthfully, these beautiful grounds make it a little difficult to even want to interrupt, because it's like got a beautiful scenery, great conversation I can kind of tune into. So I'm kind of the viewer today, and it's been a great show.
Gabby the Great.
Gabby the Great.
Sell your house and elevate your spiritual nature, all in one package.
Yeah. I like there at the end though. I've never thought about the similarities of how aliens are, or I guess aliens, from what we say about them, carry a lot of traits of a highly evolved, like, spiritual person. Telepathy, moving things, like, just wisdom-wise, evolved. And yeah, and so spirituality does almost seem the evolutionary goal to evolve to.
Evolutionary goals.
Yeah, or like the end game of it all, like where we're headed is.
Where are we
is
headed, Ian?
Onward.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about that though, because I feel like there's the side of spirituality that's like, I'm just going to exist. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to be anything. I could sit here in these woods for the rest of my life. But then there's the side where it feels like you have a mission for humanity and you do need to do something. So is it like, do y'all think it's more of a balance between the two, or do you think it's just different for everyone?
I think everybody has their role to play. So some people that, like, everybody's busy doing something, even if they don't look busy.
Everybody's doing something.
Yeah, they're busy. Like, their job's life. Like, we're on the clock right now. We're all doing our certain duties. I imagine it like any facility. It's like saying one job's better than another. on like a big business organization. It's like, well, they don't stress as much as I do, or like, yeah, everybody's has their role.
What's your role, Ian?
And being me, just being.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can transcribe for the recording.
What do we think?
Okay.
Yeah, come on over, bud. Get close.
I'll
Get close with us.
Yeah, I think it's like everybody has their own way of expressing things, and like being spiritual. It means we kind of as a society, people balance out, because some people will work really hard on the physical things, some people will work really hard on the spiritual things. Kind of like together, they like forms of balance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My coffee's empty.
Feels like I have to do both, even though. Nah, I'm cool with it. I'm not even gonna complain because I'm in a different mindset now, you know? Like every day is such a gift. Why would we wake up with a bad mindset or negativity?
Truly.
I like the idea of having a bad mindset is the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I feel sometimes. Like I am often discontent with things, but because of that, I have like a motivation to work on things. So it's kind of like it's like choosing to not live in a perfect world makes it easier to do, or to like make the world more perfect.
It's encouraging.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Sounds like a motivation.
I mean, Gabby, you're doing that with your life. You're bringing spirituality to the real estate sort of market. Even sharing it to other realtors, right? At different events.
Yeah, that reminded me, I guess it was this year. So again, like connections, networking, which you can network in anything that you do, but the president of NC Realtors let me host a guided meditation at our leadership conference, at our state conference.
Really?
And he came and he loved it, and he was telling everyone about it, and he told me he wanted me to do them at every conference.
Oh, dang.
Nice.
So that is just, and that's sometimes people have never meditated before, never even tried. So it's all about just like planting the seed, and then, whatever will sprout is going to sprout.
Wow. So we could look into the future with this momentum. Gabby on the world stage in her big travel trailer thing, like Abraham Hicks, right?
I don't know.
Possible. Would you like that?
No, well, whatever is supposed to be a line for me, I guess I have to be okay with, but my sister,
You have to.
I
Yeah.
love that answer.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
have to
okay.
do.
I'll accept
Let
my
it come.
fate to an extent after I push the boundaries, but being on a stage, it's not really my thing. My sister is like a singer, and she did like plays, and that's more of her thing. But
You can be a
Where do you
mentor
see
to the
yourself?
person who will be on stage.
Where do you see yourself in the future? Do you have a future you?
How far in the future?
Next 10 years.
Definitely having more animals, more land. Like I want to have 100 acres to have like all the cats, like any cats can
So
live
maybe
there.
a big retreat, spiritual / how to run a business
Yeah.
through the spiritual lens.
I
through
really,
the God connection lens.
yeah, I want to help people bring more like magic and details to their everyday life, because I feel like for the average person who has to work a regular 9 to 5, and then they have kids, and then they have a spouse, they're just trying to like keep up, they
Head
don't
above
have
water.
a lot of time to dedicate to a practice, or so they think, and then they're always trying to like, when are we going on vacation? But if you can like build your life to where you don't need to vacation from it, I think it would help people just be less stressed, happier relationships, happier parents.
So what are some of your, do you like have meditative practices or
Yes.
quiet times that you set aside
So I normally meditate outside, like in the mornings before the kids wake up. But sometimes if I'm having, like, I know I have a really long, like 12-hour meeting day, I'll put a break in there and meditate. If I can't get home to do it, I'll just do it at the office. Like, I'll turn frequencies on anywhere.
Yeah.
And then always I need to be like touching grass. So even if I'm at like a basketball tournament, I'll go like lay in the woods on break, because that just kind of helps recharge me.
And so through all those steps that you're doing there, I think it brings up the excellent point where people often get lost in the word of magic.
Right.
And what that means. But I know for most of us on a very simple mindset, magic is just shifting your energies, the way you feel, the way you see reality,
Your lens. Like look at all the magic around us right now, like the sky, the grass, like
and
being,
that awareness is the magic.
Like being able to just look at like a flower and like appreciating it so much. And people always ask me, the number one question is how do you do your life and not seem stressed? How are you always here, always there? And honestly, I feel kind of like a lazy person. Like, I feel like I'm not doing enough, I'm chilling a little too much, but it's really just a gratitude mindset, grateful heart, and like living in the present moment. Those two things can like change your whole life. Like, look at the sun just came out. Is that not like the most beautiful thing ever?
Just gleaming through
I know,
the clouds
like through
right
the
now.
trees.
Yeah.
So that's really the secret, I feel. It's not
Gratitude.
really a secret, yeah.
Awareness of the beauty around,
Awareness.
It's an interesting thing that I thought about. I've dealt with in my life is the way that we appear, the way that like spiritual people appear to like people around them is very different than how they appear to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So like you feel very lazy, but people see you as very like motivated and doing a lot of stuff. And it's I feel like that's like one of the things that people, or like that you learn in like the spiritual path is your own image of yourself changes more slowly than other people's image of you. Something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like we already knew you were some spiritual guru chick. You didn't hide it very well, but you didn't really accept that for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you did for yourself, but not to be more outward. Yeah, so WCOM FMLP, Carborough Chapel Hill, Legends from the Painted Cave, live radio broadcast here out on our 15 acres of our friends, and we're in front of the fire. You might hear crackling. And we got the birds and the trees whispering to us, and Gabby's grass that she needs to grounding. You found out about grounding and how, especially grass, I guess, to have your feet in the grass.
And
It's
like,
quieting.
The way like the whole fungal network communicates when like your feet touch the ground, like there's a whole world underneath what we can see. Well, we can only see like 0.01 of the light spectrum, so there's whole worlds around us. But we can tap into the energy of those worlds even if we can't physically see them.
Do you feel like you're capable of helping people to tap into these unseen energies that are all around us?
And I do during Reiki. A lot of people will, they say like their first session is kind of like life-changing. For a lot of people, they can't go back to whatever they were before. Maybe
Can't
certain,
unsee, so to speak.
Basically. Yeah.
Or unfeel, really.
And if they could, they wouldn't want to.
They wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want to forget.
Yeah, but speaking about that, like, it's like the ignorance is bliss thing, because You ever watch like magical movies or shows, and there's always a person who doesn't choose the magical life? They're like, no, I want to be regular. I don't care if I'm a witch. I don't care if I'm this. I'm going to pretend this didn't happen. And I would always say, why would they do that? Like, there's this whole world. But living in that world while living in the physical 3D world, I do now understand why people don't choose the path, because it is a big responsibility, and you have to be okay with like really walking it alone, you know.
Until the drum enters your life.
Yeah.
You're never alone.
We can be alone together.
We can be alone together. Yeah, so in nature religions, shamanism and paganism, once a person starts to hear spirit and feel spirit moving, and intuition and all of these what we call mystical experiences, so now there's a whole nother reality happening with our ordinary reality, unordinary reality, ordinary reality, and it's like you gotta decide sometimes. It's like, well, I have the kids to feed and just everything that we do in life, but yet have this whole other energetic feeling, this whole God sense of like, wow, there's so much more than just going to my job and surviving. There's so much more, and I want to do that and not this ordinary world. But we have to, because as you're doing in a high influence or being a realtor around a lot of people all the time, we get to realize that, oh, I can integrate this spirit or this God sense of connection and oneness. I could bring this to the people that I'm around, because obviously this is where I'm at, so this must be, or I can totally leave it, but that's not the path of a bodhisattva, right? We have these moments of enlightenment and enrichment of our soul and heart, and you say, well, I want to bring this back into the world. And so that transition point, right? They're always a little unstable, but you seem to have moved through pretty quickly, it seems.
Food is ready.
Are we hungry? I'm hangry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Jason's telling us breakfast is ready.
Breakfast is ready. So,
Going
gosh,
back to
that
the
was a
physical.
good hour anyway.
Going back to the physical world.
Was it an hour?
I don't
have
know.
no idea. Yeah.
I don't. My phone.
Let's take a look. 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 49 seconds.
What time is it?
The time is 8:53. Bye. Talk to you soon. We're
Love you
gonna
all.
pick this up. Louis.
Bye.
Bye.
Good talking to you.
Bye. Bye. By the way, we love you. Legends from the Painted Cave.